everyone. Welcome to this series, Human Design, How Does It Feel? Where we go through how exactly can manifest a specific trait on the human design chart in a specific lifetime so that you can compare and contrast with yours. My name is Siri, and today we're going to see four gates from the root center. And this would be the end of the gates. Moving on to the next and last part of the series, which would be the channels. So today we're gonna finish the four gates that I have in my root center. So let's do it. Okay, so the first gate is gate 58 called Aliveness. And the subtitle for this one is The Joyous. This is a gate where you have really deep, intense, insatiable desire for life in a very specific way, which is manifested as serving others and changing the world around you for good. The thing with this is that you usually are not satisfied with how things are in the present, and with this gate we would tend to challenge authority, and actually that give us joy to challenge. But again, because we have a deep sense of wanting to serve others, right? I think in my case this has manifested as like truly almost like an anguish to serve other people, and what comes with that is like not exactly knowing how to best do that, right? I think there's certain people that have professions that kind of are very directly in service, and so if you're like a doctor or I think it would have been easier for me to find that my profession is helping. I'm in education, and as I certainly think that education, of course, serves others, I think the return or feedback or it's very low. So you really don't know how much you are impacting others, and I think that's something that has been for me a way in which this gate manifests. I think also, yeah, like I feel the pressure to improve things, and I think a very like easy way to pursue this pressure is to get into activism, which I did, and it does have a lot of complications. That world is very difficult. So I think in general, the key of this gate, or like the question that comes with it, is are you experiencing joy, right? Because I think if we are like pursuing this pressure for life and service and changing things, but you find yourself completely out of joy, that means that maybe you are kind of in need of taking a pause and prioritizing your joy, right? What brings you joy, and kind of finding ways in which your service brings you joy, being careful of not falling into the victim archetype or the savior archetype, where you are sacrificing yourself for others. So you have to kind of like balance service and your own needs and desires and happiness, and kind of like pursue that, because at the end of the day, this is the gate of the joyous, so you're supposed to have joy, right? And so I think the practice of joy and deepening those practices of joy is very important for this gate. But yeah, mostly I have experienced it as a very intense desire to serve and to help. And it's not always easy, not always easy in this world to change things, definitely not. One can get very defeated. And so I think also if you cultivate joy, you will have more access to hope and faith, which definitely you will need if you are in the business of changing the world. So I'll say that's how I have experienced this gate 58 aliveness. Okay, so the next gate is the gate 38, fighter. The subtitle is opposition. And I'm laughing because I'm not necessarily are super happy that I have this gate. This is my process of self-love for sure. But basically because this means that you're like a warrior by design, which means that you're always on a fight against the odds, and that you're always yeah, like I mean, having opposition, that is the subtitle. So I don't see how this would offer a super simple or easy life because you're fighting. It's a fighting thing. And, it's just, in my case, has been a place of having big ambitions and achieving things when everything seems like it's not happening, it's not gonna happen, or I really doubt this would end well, kind of thing. Some examples I can think of, I remember having a position as an editor in a publishing house for social science, and well, it was a leadership position that can be difficult, and I was doing it, and I had a lot of difficulties, but like I was able to release the books, and even more that what my boss was thinking that it was happening. So I like did more than what was expected, and I remember when I quit because I was going on a trip. The My boss telling me like, I didn't think you were gonna succeed in this situation. Partially because how difficult it seemed, because the whole system was in a difficult place at the moment. So because of the context, and also because I was not projecting confidence enough, and so he thought this person is not gonna last or make it happen, and I did. And I think this is just really what is happening here. Another example is when I applied to grad school. I was living in Colombia, which is my home country. Seven, no, sorry, 9 years ago, I was applying for grad school to come to the States to study, and I didn't get into any schools. And the friend that was hosting me at the time was telling me like, I don't think you're gonna make this, like, because it seemed really difficult in general, and also because I don't project confidence. So she was like, I don't think you're gonna make it. And I didn't at that year, but I went back to Colombia and applied again, and I made it. And so it's this tenacity, this warrior style of like, I'm doing this and I'm doing it. But again, it just means that you're gonna have a lot of yeah, a lot of difficulty because you are choosing to master or arrive at places that are ambitious or difficult. It's not something like, like for example, if I were being born in a family of I don't know, shoemakers, and my dream was to inherit my dad's shoemaker company. That's like something very doable. It's almost like the path is intended to you do. Like in my case, it's like I in this scenario, like instead of doing shoes, I'm dreaming of being an astronaut, and everyone is like, I don't think you're gonna make it. And so I think that's tough. And the other thing that happens here is that because we have this warrior spirit, we might fight for what is not worth it. So one of the things that needs to happen with this gate 38 is to constantly evaluate what are we fighting for, and if this is worth it, like if this is a commitment that really matters. I think that's key for me. I with time I've learned to be more discerning of those spaces, but I do think that, for example, Yeah, there are some jobs that I was fighting for that were not. We never were designed to support me or see me, or and because I had started, I was trying to fight and make it happen. So really needs to the main thing is to see if what you're fighting for gives you meaning and purpose. So that's the other thing, that if we stay only with the struggle, it's not going to be very generative for anyone, including yourself. So the story of struggle needs to become the story of finding meaning, which we saw in other gate also. And so when you're fighting for things, or you're against all the odds in your dreams, in your aspirations, or even in your self-healing journey, you have to check constantly if what you're committed to and what you're fighting for is giving you purpose in meaning to your life, adding meaning to your life. And if not, maybe you're fighting for what's not worth it in your case. So I'll say that's important as well to have in mind. Okay, so the next gate is gate 54, called ambition. And um, well, this gate is actually related to the one that we were talking about before, is having literally, as it says in the title, really ambitious dreams. And the beautiful part of this gate is that because you have you have it activated, you are supplied with enough energy. Sometimes it doesn't seem enough, but enough energy to fulfill your big ambitions. So you have this, yeah, like this well of energy, well of power to, achieve your the things that you want to achieve. And the beautiful part of it is that people would get very inspired seeing you do this. And I think for me, I never realized how ambitious I am until I read this in the human design. um, because my ambitions haven't been necessarily to have $1 million, or, I don't know, like people are more familiar with ambitions such as being the president of such and such company, or, like maybe more material driven. But I think, like, as a person that grew up in Latin America, to have the dream of having a PhD in the United States and being a tenure track professor in the United States is ambitious, and I made it. I had the energy to do it. It was not easy, but I do think, even in my spirituality, I am ambitious. Again, I didn't realize this, but I had many years ago the ambition of being a channel of wisdom, the purest channel I could be of wisdom and healing for others. That is huge. That is really ambitious. And because it's so natural to me, I think I never stopped a second to realize that those dreams are really ambitious and beautiful, and they're worth it. I think that the important part on this gate is to see if you are channeling your ambition to be of service, for other people. I think maybe if we think about the example that I say about being a professor in the States, that was not necessarily driven. It was more ego driven than like driven by service. And once I arrived to that goal, I realized that it was not what I wanted to do anymore, because I wasn't serving the community that I care for, or not many people actually, because I was not where I should be. So that's the thing, when you have an ambition, you arrive to a place, but you shouldn't be doing that because your path is different. You're not going to be serving the community that you're supposed to be serving, and that happened to me. So I do think that the question of how to marry my ambitions with my services has been really key. And most definitely, the spiritual ambitions that I mentioned are grounded in service. And those are the ones that are calling me more than anything else, right? And so I think that is something that it's important to have in mind. Also, with ambition comes a lot of preparation and commitment. It's not like you're not necessarily going to achieve your dreams the next day you formulate them. So you have to be prepared. You have to be to be ready. You have to do everything to do it, right? And finally, this part of inspiring others with your journey. I do think I have experienced that myself. As an example, like I posted something a few days ago when I had a couple of folks telling me that that they have been following my journey and feel very inspired by my story, which again is not something that I'm aware of unless they tell me, right? And so, but again, what would inspire you? So you can inspire others, but what inspires you? And in which ways you are disconnected from your inspiration because maybe you're doing something you don't like to do as a job, maybe you are too distracted, etc. So what are the things that block your inspiration, your muse, and that block the energy of this gate? So that's gate 54, ambition. Okay, so the gate is gate 19, called wanting. And this is a gate in which we are driven to meet our needs, emotional, material, and the needs of others around us. So we do have the capacity to see what other people need, and we really want to give them what they need. And we also have clarity on what we need. I do think that I have come to this gate activated with time. So I don't think when I was younger I knew what I needed, but with a lot of struggle with illness and mental health stuff and other life stories, I think more and more I have a lot of clarity on what I need. And because of that process, I am also very aware of what other people need. I just can see it from just observing and feeling into it. And so I think the challenge here is to we can because we are so sensitive to the needs of others, we can abandon ourselves. So it's very important, if you have this gate activated, to serve and to help and to see other people's needs and do something about it from a full cup and not an empty cup, kind of energetically. So if you have, I mean, for me, if we want examples more practical, if I'm hungry, I am useless. If I haven't eaten properly, I can see the needs of everyone, but I will. It's just really bad. If I would enter into a process of helping someone in need when I'm hungry, it's gonna be terrible for my health, for myself, for everything. Another example, if I have pain, which I experience frequently, so I have chronic pain. If I'm in pain and I'm trying to serve others in that very moment, it really takes a toll on me. It sounds really obvious, but believe me, I did not know this. Like I have tried to help others when I was in terrible pain. That doesn't make sense. And so I think that is something that I've learned because life taught me the hard way to not overextend myself, and yet I still do it. I still, like, literally yesterday was fulfilling other people's needs and I was very hungry. And so, it's something that you have to commit to yourself, to do that. And also, not everyone has this awareness about needs as the one you have. So it's very important to practice communicating your needs. That has been really difficult for me because I see what people need sometimes even before they tell me. And so I think at the beginning I thought that we are all the same, like, oh, and it's not true. And then B, because this society teaches us to, especially if you're socialized as women, to not be demanding or, not basically not have needs. You are supposed to be the nurturer, and so you don't have needs. And so I think it's been a journey learning to ask for what, and overcoming the sense of, like, if I ask for my needs, I'm too much. And I think in my classes and the spaces I create, this is very prevalent because I really want everyone's needs to be met. And sometimes when I start my classes and I ask people what do they need from the space, a lot of them say, I don't need anything. I don't have needs. And I am like, we all have needs. We all have needs. And with time, and like the class evolves, they come to me asking for things that they need, and like I just feel like we have to continue practicing identifying our needs because the clearer we have them, more pleasant our experience of life is going to be because we don't have to go to the place where the needs are not met and we're now the problem with this society is that some people are not gonna meet your needs. So you're gonna have to. So this is the process. First, you acknowledge you have needs. Then you learn how to say the need, like ask for what you need, and then a whole purge is gonna happen because there's gonna be a group of people that don't care about you really, so they won't try at least to meet your needs, and that's going to be painful, but you're going to see, well, this is not where I should be. Like, why would you stay in a place where your needs are not met? It's just not, it's going to be really hard for you to thrive, right? And so I know a lot of people don't want to start this process because it means changes. It means letting go of people or practices or spaces. But the fact that we don't see our needs doesn't mean we don't have them. And again, I think part of my chronic illness has related to not advocating for my needs until my body gave in. It really got really sick. So I think this is such an important gate 19. And if you have it activated, I want you to consider all of these, questions and things that we're saying here. Okay, that was it for today. We had 4 gates in the root center, and this is the culmination of gates in this series, at least for now. And next week, I'm going to start looking at channels. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. Bye.